Hey, guys, doing today? I'm good. How's your last session? Good. Well, welcome. So I'll start out, majors finishing up. I am Sherry Ferriman. I serve at First United Methodist Church in Calvary, Colorado, and I also serve at Grace Church in Buena Vista. So at 3 o'clock when I go running out the doors, because I've got to get to Buena Vista, and I got a dinner date with some people. So, so I won't be rude. I'll just let you know.
Yep.
Quick to the point on that one.
Yep. So Major Rettig. I serve the good folks at Sunrise and Pueblo, not near Village Springs, then Pueblo West and in Beulah, Colorado. So some of my previous folks out in the plains, you know, are here, so that's great. And up in the mountains, I still watch. So Mike, it's wonderful to see you as always.
Thank you, Major. It's good to be here.
So, as we begin, we're going to pass out a sheet, and it is titled, "What is Church?" And this is just to start, get you thinking, what is the most essential things of church? So, Mike, I apologize. I can send you some of these documents later by email, but I'll invite you to just think about what are the most essential things of church. Here, for those of you here, you have this grid. What if you could boil down church just to its essential items, what would they be? So, and there's a couple blank lines there at the bottom. If you see something like, oh, this is essential in church, you can write that right there at the bottom. But this is not an exhaustive list. This is not reading everything that happens in your current church. But what is most essential for church to happen? And I'm going to invite you to take just a few minutes and go through this. If you want to turn to a neighbor and dialogue a little bit, you can. But we will cut you off at a certain point. So,
I don't know if you can see this, or is it too fuzzy? No, it's backwards, upside down. Sorry, Mike. I try.
That's okay. If I don't have the handouts and I don't have to fill anything out, then I don't have to do any homework either. So that's fine.
I'll tell Jeannie, Mike.
Yeah, well, she's not far away.
Well, right. Yeah. I mean, with the budget back.
Yeah, right. So perfect fit for 50 vets.
Right.
Use it.
Yeah, that's right. If nobody's done anyone else apologize that. Jerry.
Walls and roll like the back. Like that's what I said.
Yes, like
Really mentioned Walmart. And I did. I want to say, but you know, I missed it. You know, it was a moment of great fear. You know, I'm showing that you guys myself once. Right. Last with what you did. Started and the whole treat about it. Just you also. Take off for stuff. Well, we're very well. Was the great clouds in right? And other issues. Sir, talking about but you are going to join us, Tommy. Let's begin.
I
Something that we got what cheese did we want to see where? So it's been one.
Was it just one of our coffee? No, I was getting out. Was it just one of our coffee mugs? No, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. I'll find it. Still probably the people wants to.
If I see it on.
Sorry.
Sorry. You guys still working on it and getting restless?
Almost.
All right, you guys ready to kind of go over this list? We're next to the whiteboard behind the meter.
That's the.
Right, friends, so what is church?
Where's Jackson? You.
Evil.
Rules. Fellowship.
Searching. Prayer. Okay. I don't know why my ears are like, yeah, I don't like just speech. It's not yet. Get the British accent. Yeah.
Music. I like one. Sometimes we only have a quartet instead of a choir, but that's just fine.
It is what it is. Some music.
God.
Bible study.
The Bible.
Outreach.
Yes. She likes that. Yes. Or you go.
Well, it doesn't, and we got the Trinity.
Say, come.
Well,
And look down. Then. Nations. Weapon.
like, I don't think you can see, can you kind of see the board-ish?
Yeah, I think just what they that.
Maybe.
Any others?
Because you need a preacher. You don't always have to.
Do you have to have the preacher?
Not necessarily.
I think that's fine without the answer if you want.
It's nice to have one, but we don't really practice. Well, I'm proud of it.
So it'd be nice, but not nice. I don't better. Any more business? Well, darn, I don't see the building.
Oh,
What, Tony, I'm just like the preacher, do we get to have a building? It's where we're going, that's it. It was just a bait point. All right, Major.
Okay. So we raised this. We raised this question: is how do you engage this exercise? Because it starts opening the door for us to really think about what are the really essential things for church. We think about fresh expressions. The term started in a study actually done in the United Kingdom a number of years ago, because their level of church engagement is further along this slippery slope than what we see even here in the US. Here in the West, we're kind of at 15 to 20%. UK is a bit about that, maybe a little bit less. Bible Belt areas in the US is still 30 to 40% of the cultural engagement with church. But we can look and see what our brothers and sisters across the pond, as they say, some of the stuff that they've been exploring, what stuff that they've been discovering, and say, does that have any value for us too? And this is where Fresh Expressions comes from, because in this report, they say we need to come up with fresh expressions of faith in order to reach the folks who will never darken the door of the church. Before we get too far into all of that, and know that there is so much more that to say that will actually get said in this short time we have together. Please know, if you have any questions, interrupt Sherry and I. We want to be able to answer your questions more than we want to get through the content that we designed for you. We're guidance. But before we dig too far into that, I want to share with you a story. So I'm a runner. It's something that I really enjoy doing. I run anywhere from 6 to 6.5 miles when I go out, and I can do it in just under an hour. Where I currently live, there's a particular parking lot, and it gives me access to the river trail system there in Pueblo. And a little less than half a mile, I can turn one way and run towards the reservoir. I can turn the other way and head towards downtown Pueblo. And I kind of alternate weeks which way I go, just for variance. When I run towards Pueblo, my route goes that keeps me on, I get to the river, and I stay on the north side of the river, and I go about 2.5 miles down, and there's a bridge for me to cross. And then I'll go a little bit further before I turn around, and then I stay on the south side of the river. And there, just under a mile from the parking lot, there's another bridge I can cross so I can drive back to my house. It'd be a long walk otherwise, especially after I just ran 6 miles. So this is just the other day, I was running this loop, and my tracker, alerted me that I just met the 5 mile mark. So I'm thinking, okay, like this is good. Like I'm within that last mile. I'm almost done. And I look up, I approach the second bridge, and the bridge is out. And I don't mean close. I mean, it literally does not go across the river anymore. And I'm left puzzled, thinking like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I have other things I need to get to today, so I like to run in the morning. And so the only thing I can think of is I have to backtrack. I have to go the 2 miles back, cross that other bridge, and another 2.5 miles. Like, my 6 mile run is about to turn into a 10 mile run. I'm about 3/4 of a mile running back, retracing my steps. And where the river runs, it's a little bit of a valley, and there's this railroad track that goes across. And I've run this loop for months and months and months. And I never noticed until that moment that there's about a 3-4 foot break in the fence right there where there's a narrow trail, and I can go up and I can run across the railroad bridge to get back to the other side. And so my 6 mile run ended up being about a 7 1/3 mile run that day. I was still feeling it the next day out. I was pretty tired. But I share this story because when it comes to church, how often do we get those habits, those patterns? We know how church works. This is the motions we have to go through. Mm-hmm. And yet the world around us has changed. The things that we do in church were developed during a certain point in time when culture operated a certain way, and culture no longer operates that way, and yet we keep running the same loop. And so what do we do when we find that the bridge is out and we have to find a different path?
So when Major and I broke this up, we've done this once now together. That was the first time we rehearsed. So your rehearsal number 2. when we first talked about this, I really didn't realize I got the bad news. He's the big cop, I'm the bad cop of the day. It is what it is. So, but I'm just going to talk to you for a few minutes. Something that you all already know, but just so we can have the conversation about the state of our church, right? And so, as we all know, oh, and by the way, I apologize that I'm holding my laptop. My printed notes are probably either in my car or at the bar. I'm not sure which, but at least I have them on my laptop. So we have text. You don't want me to go with memory, trust me. But we all know, right? Mainline denominations are declining. For a long time, we thought evangelicals were growing. Did you know they are declining now? So not only, so the church as we know it in America is definitely in decline. There's this group of people culturally who are spiritual but not religious, right? They know God, or they know the divine, they know something higher power, right? But they don't relate to the organization of what we know as church, right? We've got this group of people called the nuns, not N-U-N, the N-O-N-E-S, who I'm going to make sure for 3 generations, we could argue and totally bet on definitely 2 generations of people who have not been exposed to church in the ways in which previous generations have been. Okay, and part of that is the culture changing. And I'm going to say the 50s, 60s. I wasn't quite born yet, so go with me. I believe in that time, Sunday mornings were sacred.
Yeah, they were.
Sunday family dinners were sacred, right? If you weren't in church, you had some explaining to do, right? As Lucy would say. So, as we have moved into the only life I've ever known is both my parents worked. And so the little bit of family time that we had became sacred time for our family. And so we live in a generation or a time now where sacred time is no longer Sunday mornings. I can remember in my lifetime when stores weren't open on Sundays. And I was tucked up just in the south because I lived there too, here in Colorado. You couldn't buy beer on Sunday. Heaven forbid for some sailors in the group. But our times have changed. In research has shown if young people come to church with families, right, they might 1 every 2 months. That was about 4 years ago, so it's probably even longer now. Because guess what our competition is on Sunday morning? Sports. I'm even going to say everything. Everything, right? And it is when both parents work, you have to prioritize the family time. And I'm sorry, for them, the church is not the priority. I have to be at church on Sunday morning. Well, I don't have to. Prefer. But there's a lot of people in the world that is not true for, right? And so we continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, and we expect new results. What did Einstein say? The definition of insanity? Doing the same thing, right? And we have this group of people who are called the Dones. D-O-N-E-S. My children, I'm sad to say, today are they're going back and forth on that world. They are done with church. My children, and I can't speak to anyone else in the room, my children are done because what church people did to my children. And I had no idea what was being done to them. And they didn't want to tell me because they knew Mama Bear might not be the pastor that I would be the pastor they needed. Maybe not the one they want. Great. But my kids I mean, my girls, maybe I can get them to go to church with me every once in a while. I bribe them with a trip to one of this. That's the one has lots of people, but I only 10 hours conversation. But the reality is, there are legitimate reasons that people are not in our churches on Sunday morning. We have earned that reputation. And by we, I don't mean you're guilty of whatever it is. I'm saying we have, as a collective, earned that. And the church so desperately wants to attract these people into the building, right? They want them to come to church on Sunday, but we are irrelevant to them. It has no impact on their life, their meaning. And I have a friend of mine who is, her husband's a pastor. She's a very good pastor's wife, and they're in their understanding what church might be like. And her in-laws are self-proclaimed atheists. She says they do more good for the world around us than half the church people do. Mm-hmm. So it's a time that we come, and I've said this in my church, and I said this in the last group. Y'all can throw rocks at me when I get outside. I've been called a heretic before. Probably won't be the last time. I do not believe COVID happened by accident. I do not believe the doors of the church closed. God has to do something to get us out of the pews. We haven't learned our lesson yet, because we want to go right back to March 2020 and sit right back in that same pew. But God is up to something. I believe with all my heart, all my being. We are in the midst of a reformation. I do believe God is up to something. We have now dropped to the minority in America as far as Christianity. We are below 50%. The spiritual but not religious, over 58% of them believe in higher power. They outnumber us. And we go to a building every Sunday, right? Whatever that schedule looks like. So we built, I'm going to say again, 1960s, this attractional model of church. If we build it, they will come. People came to church. They did, because it was a priority. Actually, they had to explain if they didn't. Kind of a problem if they didn't, right? Nowadays, why'd you go to church? What'd you do? You got where? So I'm going to start to transition back to major, but so for tomorrow, the lectionary reading comes from John. And it's in John when Jesus says, the temple will be destroyed and rebuilt in 3 days, right? And the people around him, they're saying, we've been building this temple for like 46 years. You're crazy. The temple had became a place where people went to do the things they did, right? This is the cleansing of the temple. This is when Jesus ushers everyone out because they had, it made it a thief's den, for lack of a better word. So Jesus says, the temple will be destroyed. I will raise again. I am your temple. So Jesus was saying this monument, this building, is no longer going to be the priority. The priority becomes the ministry, the movement, the motions, the being, the doing. I and the temple. And we all represent Christ in the world around us. We are all the temple of God when we go about our day. But we, in our culture, have done what? We've gone back to this monument of a building and said, oh, we're doing the ministry in this place. Don't you see it? Haven't you heard? You can't see through this wall, right? So I'm just gonna invite you to let that play in your mind a little bit. As we've gone from monument building to the temple of Christ. And now we're folding onto this monument that may or may not be relevant.
So as we engage in this conversation, one caveat I want to put out there is do not think that we are saying what we call typical church, traditional church, or inherited church is bad. Okay, there are many faithful disciples who have been raised in those and inherited churches. We have stories about the deep impact of inherited churches that they've had in positive ways too on our lives. And so we're not just simply getting rid of them. That'd be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. But we're here to talk about kind of the other side of the coin, fresh expressions. How do we engage with all these people Sherry just told us about? And there is, and so it's a both and. We use the term blended ecology, where it's this and that coming together. And this is how we can most faithful share Jesus with people, right? So fresh expressions is a form of church that primarily exists for people who will not darken the door of a church. It's not just simply about us, let's go do a Bible study at the coffee shop and it's only church people that are there. It's not about doing a mission trip, mission experience. We go help clean up somebody's yard who can't do that. So it's actually about engaging with folks who are not in the church. It's about building community. Fresh Expressions is a ministry that we don't do to people. We don't do for people. We do it with people. And so there's more of an equal or level playing ground with that. We're not there to take the, that invisible biblical 2x4 and beat them around, right? Saying like, how come you're not in church? Do you know Jesus? Where are you going to end up when thy kingdom comes, right? And I bet there's a very Christianese word that's starting to pop in your heads now. And the word is evangelism. How many of us here are really good at evangelism?
I'm funny.
Right? So,
I look for a sandwich border.
right? But we have these preconceived notions, even stereotypical notions about what evangelism looks like, theoretically looks like. In the sense of Fresh Expressions, there is evangelism being done, but it's simply building community with people with Christ at our center. If there's no biblical 2x4 that they're getting whacked around with. But it's about building community, and we know that we have Jesus at our center. One of the problems is that as churches, we get kind of uncomfortable of having to do new things, don't we? Do things that are different, that are not our ordinary practices. And there's some fear, there's some resistance, there's a whole, maybe we feel lost and in the midst of thinking about doing it. And we're like, what do I do? Nike said it best. Just do it. Just do it. You don't have to be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. Give yourself some grace. That's if we share Jesus, we're sharing Jesus' grace with people, right? You can have some of that grace too. So we just get out there. We try things. We experiment. We need to make friends with failure, because failure is only failure if we stop. If we keep on going, then it's not failure, but it's a lesson. I've learned something, and I can do it better the next time, right? And so the other thing is, this is not, Fresh Expressions is not a save the church strategy. It's not like, we're seeing the worshiping or membership decrease year after year. We're seeing the giving going down. Fresh Expressions, the point of Fresh Expressions is not to get people in the church. It's not a save the church strategy. It's a share Jesus strategy. Kind of the point, the mission of the church, right? And so we go about doing it by first getting out there and listening. Listen, just listen to people. I mean, think about this. When was the last time that you had somebody just really deeply listen to you? Not in a conversation where, you know, the other person's thinking about what they're going to say back to you while you're still talking, because we do that too. But when's the last time that somebody really listened to you, that you really felt heard? You want to spend more time with that person. So do that for other people and see what happens. There, how many stories in the Gospels is there where Jesus healed somebody who couldn't see? Jesus helped somebody who could not hear, and they could suddenly hear as well. And the time is for us to ask, what is it that I am not seeing? What is it that I'm not listening? And how might we open our eyes? How might we open our ears? How might we open even our hearts to really see and hear the people around us? Thomas Halleck called this process finding the hidden God. He says, the God whom we must seek and find is in the lives of people beyond the visible boundaries of church. And so the invitation is for each of you to become curious, for each of you to become a student. And every person you come in contact with, listen to what they might share with you, listen to what they might teach you about themselves, about their view and understanding of the world, and the high percentage that they're still spiritual. What might they share with you about God? You might be surprised. And who knows where that might lead.
Well, wait a minute. What if you aren't surprised?
Then you're not.
Keep digging.
So then
Yes. Keep listening. Keep engaging people in the community. Build those relationships.
see, I have a problem because I'm a retired minister.
Okay.
And I just took on a position, but I'm a quarter time.
Yeah.
And I live an hour and 10 minutes away from the church.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's going there's an hour and 10 to Saturday morning and an hour and 10 back.
Right.
And there's some difficulty, you know, with the distance and that and the kind of intimate sharing that you're talking about takes time.
Yes.
It takes time.
Yes.
So for me personally, you know, I have some check marks that I have to deal with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I don't know how to do it. And I don't know how to deal with that.
And
So I was hoping to come here that you're going to be the answer man. And you know, I'm joking with you a little bit. But,
Yeah.
You know, that is an issue.
Yeah.
it is.
You know, we have a cohort. We didn't even say that last time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Abbott Costello, who
Yeah.
go first. We've had a cohort on the second Thursday of the month for September.
Yeah.
Where we've been talking with a group of people around the conference.
Yeah. It's on Zoom.
And it's a Zoom, but that's the biggest question.
Yeah.
Is literally the question you're asking. As a pastor, I am very, very, very passionate about this because honestly, the church is on hospice. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We could die gracefully and do it, claim it, own it. Or we can do something different. Right? And that's my opinion as a pastor. I'm a quarter-time pastor. I'm quarter-time.
You're quarter.
I have 2-point charge. When it is done, 2.5 hours that way. And Fountain, 45 minutes that way. And I live out east.
You live between them?
No,
No.
out east. So I understand our challenge, right? And so it's probably, here's what I've come up with. One, this is a laity-driven program. We're going back to our roots. We're going back to John Wesley days, where we're going to be circuit riders And we have to equip and empower the laity to be the presence in the community. That's where we're going. That's where we need to be. Well, I can't even say we're going. That's where we really
That's where it
need
needs-
with apologetics. With apologetics, Ronnie. But we can't, I have not found the words to my congregation, the people I sit with, and I've been there for 4 years now, 5 years, to get them out of the pew to meet people out there. They're out there every day. They're in different places. If they could just shift their perception a little bit, right? So a couple weeks ago, I was having a conversation with two of the ladies, and I said, you keep saying this over and over and over again, and none of them are hearing me. It's falling on deaf ears. I said, I know. What do I do?
Well, what is it they're not hearing?
They don't want to hear another way of being church.
They don't hear what?
They want Sunday morning is the only way church happens. I do not believe that.
Sure.
And I'm trying.
This is the way we do it. This is the way
Right.
we've always done it. This is the way we're going to continue.
Right.
Yeah, and you're going to that.
But it's that too, that for me, a real issue is the average age in this church is probably 90.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I think these people have goodwill.
Yeah.
And when I find out their histories, I find out they were very, very dedicated in the fact.
Right.
But the past was 50 years ago.
Right.
But the other issue is just sheer energy.
Right. No, you're not wrong. This is the challenge.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
So,
these people are more new.
yeah. So Michael Back is one of the people here in the US who's written most of these books on fresh expressions. What he says is understand and honor them in that inherent. That church is meaningful. Sunday morning is very meaningful to me also, right? But if we can ask them to do one small thing, right? Who could you talk to about something? Where do you go? This kind of moves us into that,
Yeah.
right? Where do people gather in that place naturally? And how do you begin building relationships in that place in order to then at some point, way down here, bring in the Jesus story? And and it's not the proverbial 2x4. It's the story of how Jesus is alive in us and through us, right? But Michael says it's asking them to do one small thing. They can introduce somebody in the congregation who has an affinity for this to somebody they know who has an affinity for the same thing. And then they begin building new relationships. It's all about building the new relationships. Earlier, I'm going to switch to the, I wasn't going to share this until I got here today. So, Holy Spirit, you strike me. So when I said I left my printout at a bar, I probably did. Because March 1st last year, my husband opened a bar. Or we opened a bar, I guess, because we're married. We had a coffee shop. COVID killed us. Took all my savings. I have nothing left in my bank. Don't even try. They just get bars on you. But last year was our 1-year anniversary for the bar. So we were doing some different things down there. And in this place, since we started, all of them know, and my husband will say, watch out, my wife's coming back. She's a pastor. She's going to get you. So, but I've got 4 older people. And if they are 70, they are 1 day old. Like, serious, if they are 70, they're 1 day. They come in all the time. They score 2 calls. One day I'm walking by and they're like, can I just ask you a question? Sure. What's your question? If I was going to read the Bible, yeah, if you were, what would happen? What kind of Bible, what would I read? Where would I start? All these questions, right? And they come in still about once a week. They always have a question for me. And it's not a hard one. Now there's one person, when he says, you got a minute? I'm like, oh no, I don't have 2 weeks to talk to you about the position of the New Old Testament right now. So sorry. And I say that in jest because he and I have a lot of he believes he is unforgivable and unlovable which is the moral injury piece that not one of my bets, but he honestly believes he is unlovable by God. And because God can never love him, no one else can either. And so we have some really hard conversations. Most of the time he argues so full. Okay, you don't understand grace yet. We'll get there. We'll get there. I may have more gray hair, but we'll get there. Right? So when he comes around, I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, please don't have a question today. Please don't publish. But in all seriousness, this last week, so in January, we were going back and forth. Are we going to renew our lease or we're going to walk away? Let's just walk away. I don't know about y'all. I'm too old to open a bar and a restaurant, and it is not a friendly business. Yeah, it is not a friendly business. So we seriously were like, we did a 1-year lease on purpose. We didn't want to take that. My husband got duped into it while I was at church one Sunday morning. So anyway, long story short, January, we almost said we're not renewing the lease. And that we weren't going to renew the lease, that we were going to let it close again. And the owner of the building already said he's going to bulldoze the building if it closes. We had, and then we started noticing the people in the place and what the place does for the people. Not what we can do, what the place does. It's been there since 1978. It is a landmark in our community. So we were kind of going back and forth. We agreed last Monday morning to sign the lease. This last week. I didn't think about that earlier. That's a lightning strike.
Name of the place.
It's Corner Pocket down at Fountain.
Oh, no, I know exactly.
Yeah, but before us, they had drug ODs 2 or 3 times a week. They had shootings. Yeah, we haven't had any of those like such a whole. But so last Monday we decided and we told the owner, yes, we'll do another lease. And Monday night I came back. You don't ever had anyone who worked for you who was like, you really, really care for, but they do something really, really stupid. And really stupid means I could be in jail right now. Really stupid. And so I came in, it's 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock Monday night. And I am not. I'm sad. I'm heartbroken. I have to process this thing, this ugly beast that not only hurt me and the bar, but it hurt the person in which did it. And how do I reconcile all this? And I walk in and there's a young lady sitting at the end of the bar. And she says, and I'm going in, I've got my bags. I'm like, okay, I'm on a mission, right? I'm on a mission. I'm going in, setting myself in the office. And she's like, Sherry, can you have a minute? Set your stuff down. I'm like, can I talk to you? Like, no, I don't have any more time for any more drama today. This has already been one of those days that I can't take anything else. And I said, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. And so I came over and she starts crying. And she said, I just need my pastor. My daughter, my baby's having a major surgery tomorrow. It's going to be the first of 5 or the first of 4. Best case scenario, shot a golden burn. I need you to pray for me. I need you to be with me. She's going to my church. 17-year-old daughter had a major surgery. It's serious. So we prayed in the bar. God reminded me, stop and be present. Wednesday, I walked in. I had another person come up and say, I need to talk to you. Where now? I ain't got time for this. Thursday, whereas I came back, we had a clergy, the Colorado Springs area, all of us clergy, we met, we were talking about some, ideas. And I came back in and I was in between A and B. We had to leave and be somewhere else by 5:30 with my husband. And one of the regular people who's not there on Thursdays came in and I just looked at her and I said, "Am I okay?" She said, "No, I'm not." She's right. So I walked over and gave her this huge bear hug, this huge wet spot down the side of my shoulder. She's okay. She said, "My mom just, and I can't be alone." I didn't know where else to go. I sat with her. This is a bar. This is where my papers are for today, because I was there last night recording my sermon at 12:30 this morning. That is a press expression.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am not there telling them about God, but God is telling them that God. That is the epitome of what we're doing. And I told me I had no plan on sharing this today. And I told Major, I apologize, but that's what we're up. That's what we need to be.
Sure.
And it's wherever we are. And in that bar, those people often feel judged, unworthy, unloved, unlovable. And in this place, we're creating a safe space. We have kids in there 4 out of 7, at least, days a week. People would have brought their kids in before. Now with all the OGs and the shippings and, but it's a place, it's becoming a landmark that it started as. Back to Major.
That's it.
Now that I sidetracked.
No, that's fine. It's good stories. But it paints a picture what it's like. It's not about saving the church, but it's about sharing Jesus. And there are churches that really engage in fresh expressions. At some point, you reach this level where folks start asking those faith-related questions, and you start seeing discipleship start happening. It might look a little bit different, but you start seeing it happening in those other places. And sometimes, not always, not with everybody, but sometimes some of those folks are hungry for more. And you never know who might immediately start coming to church. But that's not why you do it. So as we go out into our communities and we listen, another part of that is that we truly love folks. But if our primary thing that we're trying to do is get them inside our doors, sit in a pew, if the primary thing we're trying to do is get them to believe that we believe, they're going to know that our primary mission is not loving them. So the question is, how can we go out there and make them feel really loved and let God handle the rest? The catch is that part of some of the scariness for us to go out and engage and do these things is that we feel that it's our responsibility, it's our burden to go and take Jesus, take God out there. And if
That's already due, Major.
I know, right? If that's what we think, we got it backward. There's nowhere we can go that God has not already been. We're the ones following God's footsteps. And so start by praying about it. Say, who are the folks that God might want you to listen to? Where are the places God might want you to go? And along with this, we're going to hand you out a sheet. It is two-sided. I don't want you to take these, do it individually, do it with somebody, take it back to your church and do it at your church. On the one side is a people map. And it's to start you to think about where's your church located and what are the things around, so you become more aware of the things that are around in your church. Sometimes we're new to an area and we just don't really know. Other times we've been in a place long enough that we just kind of overlook, we take for granted things that are right there. And this is just to simply get us out to become more aware of who our neighbors are. On the backside of that sheet is a practice called Lectio Vicinitas. So some of you may know the Bible study practice of Lectio Divina, where it's a very prayerful way to read the scriptures. You kind of open yourself to what might God be saying in those words to you. This takes the exact same principle, but instead of with scripture, places you out in the community, recognizing that God is already there. And how do you prayerfully listen to what God might want you to hear from the context of your community? And so I encourage you to look that over. We are just about out of time. As I shared at the beginning, that there's way more to cover here way more fresh expressions than we can cover here, but we hope this just gives you a little bit, gives you a taste So in addition to the cohorts that Sherry mentioned that we have going on, Sherry and I, we are open. Anyone got questions, wants to engage in conversation, we're here. Stephanie Moffat is our conference director of Fresh Expressions. That's her job. She gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
To help foster these conversations. So she's available to you as well. In addition, there's a book list. This is not exhaustive, but it's there's 10 books that I recommend. 8 out of 10 I've already read. The other 2 are still on my to read list. But they're just something to help further us along to do this. There's a lot more French expression books out there than this list, but here's a short list to recommend. Some of these Sherry has.
I have a lot more on my Kindle, but if you want to glance at any, I just one talk to Sergeant Major. I don't want to lose my pages.
I know.
The properties, the people over property building book, I really am enjoying it. I bought a used copy. Apparently, used that didn't use glue. So just be careful with my pages because they fall out.
Okay. So the other thing is we have a sign-up list here. If you want to know more or to get learn news they're putting out through the conference, I invite you to sign up on there, leave your contact information, and we'll be sure to connect you with that. So.
And these little stickers, they and the little fresh expression. So FX is the abbreviation. They've now started a Facebook FX MSC.
Yeah, so Mountain Sky Conference.
Mountain Sky Conference, MSC. On Facebook, so you can follow that. If you put your email on here, you will be connected with Stephanie. And so as she does these new things or notifications, you will now be moved on if you're interested. And lastly but not least, they are doing micro grants right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an idea, there's a way to get a grant.
Yeah. So it's
That's really very small strengths.
I say $250 is the micro grant, but it's a simple form, and it's not just for everything in the church, but if you have an idea of how to reach out to the community to possibly start a fresh expression, here's a little something to bless your efforts.
And then this, it's got the little QR code. This is the website on the Mountain Sky Conference page that has not only all these forms, but it's got like Stephanie's contact her, a bunch of other things. If you'd like one, you're welcome to it. If not,
Have fun.